Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm ZS Caravallo from ZK Research, and I'm here in Salem, New Hampshire at the Extreme Networks offices. I'm with John Brams. John, you are the SVP of Americas Sales for Extreme. How are things going?
Going great. It's great to see you, as always.
Yeah, and maybe for those who don't know Extreme, a little background on Extreme and what your role there is.
Sure. So John Brams, as you said, SVP of Americas Sales. So I'm responsible for our Americas sales organization. For us, what that means is we have Canada all the way up to the north. We have our LATAM regions. And then we have several vertically focused regions in the U.S. So think of our federal, our SLED group, our sports entertainment practice, and then our enterprise customers as well.
Yeah, now we're going to be talking retail.
Yes.
I last ran into you last week at the NRF show, the National Retail Federation. You had an event there. It was a packed event. In fact, I'm not sure I know of any other event that used the entire Javits Center, so that was good to see.
It's rare these days.
Yeah. Now, what I liked about that event was obviously it was packed, which means there's a lot of activity in retail. I think when you think of the transformation of different industries because of AI and cloud and things like that, a lot of people think there's no industry that's going to be transformed more than the retail one, right? And there's a lot going on there. And so from your perspective and the customers you talk to, what's going on with retail today, and how's AI impacting things?
Yeah, I mean, I think NRF is interesting for me. As you talked about it, it's evolved over the years. It used to be very much a U.S.-based, and then there was an international flavor to it. I think one of the trends I've seen over the last few years, and it was really prevalent this year, is the international side of things. The amount of customers, partners that we saw from both LATAM and EMEA was interesting to me, and I think that's sort of an evolving. From a technology perspective, I think, usually things start in the U.S. market and then they push out to these other regions.
Yeah.
I do think we're starting to see that shift a little bit, where we're seeing some really interesting technologies develop, both out of EMEA and LATAM. Specific to AI, I think retail is so interesting. The piece that always strikes me with retail is the amount of data from multiple different sources, right? You have all the IoT and operational side of things where they have all this data. They have what I'll call their customer-facing aspects of this. So what we're seeing is there's a tremendous opportunity to use a technology like AI where you can bring these elements together and start to make some really intelligent decisions about how to utilize this, how do you streamline operations, how do you think it makes more efficient. And so it's really the perfect use case in my mind of a lot of the verticals that we work with is around how to utilize AI and bring together these multiple data sources.
Yeah, what was fascinating to me too was obviously every vendor that was there had AI in the booth, but the number of massive, well-known brands that were there. I saw Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Ralph Lauren, just every brand imaginable checking out different AI technologies, right? And you're right. And there's a lot of new devices coming. You think of, Extreme's big in stadiums, the just walk out type of technology, or Mash-In, where you can frictionless checkout, pay with facial recognition. A lot of that stuff's going to be coming to the retailers soon, right? And those 100%. Are all IoT connected. Yeah. And so from the IT leaders you talk to, right, there's a lot of transformation going on. There's more devices being connected. What are some of the challenges they're facing?
Yeah, I mean, I always think in retail, there's the business side of it, which is, retail operates, as you know, from a margin and revenue side perspective, it's razor thin. So any technology they're going to have to invest in, anything they're going to have to monetize, the ROI side of it is significant. So you're going to make an investment, you're going to make sure that it actually proves itself out, and that there's a tangible side of it. I think the other challenges we're seeing is there's a lot of legacy infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
You have stuff that's 20 years old, and you have stuff that you're trying to integrate as part of that. So how do you, from a networking perspective, from an AI perspective, how do you start to tie these pieces together to make sure that they work together seamlessly, and you can sort of carry forward the past, but still guide yourself into the future?
Yeah, in fact, I think I read something that the technical debt in the U.S. alone is like billions of dollars for U.S. companies, right? And so trying to figure out how to move to the new world, while trying to facilitate, I guess, the move out of the old stuff. But you still want to be able to capitalize it and sweat the assets as long as you can. And so that's a careful balancing act.
100%. I mean, ideally, would they love to just upgrade everything all at once?
Sure.
Sounds great. But realistically, they're going to have to carry forward some of these legacy technologies.
Now, one of the interesting aspects of, I think, just businesses today, not just retail, is when you think about the building blocks of digital transformation, AI and mobility and cloud, they're all network centric, right? And in fact, I just recently ran a survey with the Cube Research, and then I partnered on this, and we asked IT leaders to rank the importance of the network compared to 2 years ago. They said 93% said it's more important to the business operations. And so, how do you see the role of the network being in retail transformation? Yeah,
it's a significant part of it. I mean, if you take a look at any implementation and any technology they want to embrace, the network is the foundation of that. So as they look forward and say, hey, we want to embrace this piece of technology, or we want to embrace AI, or we're embracing, ESL or temperature sensors or any type of IoT devices, it all ultimately comes back to the network. So we spent a tremendous amount of time, we have a 20-year legacy of working in retails and saying, what's the right way to design this technology? What's the right way to implement it? And what are the right elements associated with it that are going to be critical for retail going forward? I'll tell you from our side, the biggest pieces that we've seen recently is, for example, Wi-Fi, on the Wi-Fi side of things with Wi-Fi 7, and really 6E, the 6 gigahertz space is a really nice piece of technology for example, on opening up that 6 gigahertz space, because it finally starts to give them a clean frequency that really didn't exist before. So that's a good example of where we're saying, all right, we're not just upgrading technology for the sake of upgrading technology. There's some real value being delivered it, and opening it up, for example, in the 6 gigahertz space has been a really nice, an important part of our design, but a really nice gain for them in terms of the design and implementation.
Yeah, and that's going to allow the retailers to do a lot of new things. In fact, I went to one event, evening event at NRF, and one of the luxury retailers was speaking there, and they're trying to implement a tablet program to make, really they want to give every in-store person a device to carry around, and so they can show more merchandise. Now, when you think about that, this retailer, in fact, I know tried it a few years ago, and the network hadn't been upgraded. And I remember the CIO there saying that it had the reverse effect, where patrons got so frustrated waiting for the tablet to load, they wound up leaving the store, right? And so, and it's interesting that when you think of luxury retailers, where the price points of things are $3,000-$4,000 for a pair of shoes or whatever, most of those purchases are impulse buys, which is really interesting. And so the ability to show more merchandise becomes important, right? And so I think, to me, Wi-Fi 7 is incredibly important. In fact, I was at a stadium that had just put in actually 6E and opened up the 6 gigahertz. And I was getting about 700 meg of down and 500 up. And historically, really good, clean Wi-Fi on the 5 gigahertz spectrum will get you maybe 200. Right. And so to me, that's game changing. And so what are some of the other network technologies you see as being really transformative in networking? Yeah,
in addition to the 6 gigahertz space, to me, the AI ops, so how you manage these networks, as part of our solution, making sure that they're efficient, so how they manage it day to day so that they can scale. If you mentioned a retailer, if you have 2,500 locations, if you have several parts of your operations, you need to be able to scale that. And as we know, IT resources, they're not exactly going up. Everyone's working with a smaller team. The other piece of technology I think we're seeing evolve in this space is the ZTNA, right?
Yeah.
So that you can have trusted access to the network. It's another important part that I think previously it was sort of an afterthought. So now it's being designed from the ground up from an architectural perspective to say that, hey, we need these pieces. We need the 6 gigahertz. We need to be efficient in how we manage this, and then we need the secure access side of it to really complete the solution.
Yeah, so double click there on security. I know security is interesting because I think ever since I've been an analyst, going on 25 years, and I think I've talked about this trend of networking and security coming together for 25 years, and it seems like it was a solution looking for a problem, but I am seeing more interest in doing that today than I ever have. And are you seeing the same thing, and if so, why?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the retail space has always been a target, right? Like they're very public. The brands are, in a lot of cases, are significant brands. So from a security perspective, it's always been top of mind. But I think the piece that's been missing up into this point is sort of the integration of those technologies and how do you manage it going forward. So, as opposed to sort of having these sort of individual pieces of technology that you're doing the integration, I think we're doing a much better job of building that natively into the solution. For example, the micro-segmentation we do on the network and the LAN side of things serves itself very well in a retail space because of the diversity of things that you have plugged in. And we're going to make the assumption that that nothing should be anything that gets plugged in isn't going to be safe. So it's one thing to have the technologies, but the ability to manage those efficiently. You probably saw with our Platform One announcement that we made, and we have some additional technology that's going to be coming out of it. That's really an extension of that story, is how do we become more efficient? How do we operationalize and bring together those elements, not just managing the day-to-day, the AI ops side of it, but then overlaying the security on top of it.
Yeah, to me, zero trust and micro-segmentation are almost no-brainers today. In fact, I think about all the big breaches, and I'm not going to call on any brands here, but you can go Google them and see them. If they had been running any kind of zero trust or micro-segmentation, those breaches would have been significantly reduced. And to me, there's no reason why that companies shouldn't be running, because it just shrinks the blast radius down, right? So breaches happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to prevent them, but you got to make sure that when they happen, you're minimizing the impact of them, and that's what zero trust does.
And you know this, that those technologies have been available, but you have to be able to manage that, implement it, operationalize it.
Well, that's been the big innovation, actually, is making it easy to deploy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so talk about Extreme now and what you're doing to help retailers through their these journeys.
Yeah, so I mean, we've, as you know, we're working with several retailers, and
if you want to talk about any,
we'll bring up some examples of it. But one of the areas that I think we're being really helpful are actually sort of stealing from our sports entertainment practice. And you think about the
every sports entertainment has retail in it, so
exactly, that's true too. Yeah. But I think about from the fan experience and then translate that back to the customer experience. And we've done some major implementations lately, and I'll use Kroger as an example. We're in the process of deploying 2,500 stores globally. When it's done, 100,000 access points.
That's a lot of APs.
That's a lot of APs. Yeah. So you have to be able to manage that efficiently. You have to be able to, all the things that we talked about and the technology that they're unwrapping. But one of the things that they came to us on, which was interesting, and it's sort of both a technical and a business challenge, is they went to electronic couponing, which for their users is a significant change, right? You have people that have been cutting coupons for years. Now they're expected to use an app.
No more paper coupons?
No more paper. And so imagine that's a big deal operationally. So particularly for a certain demographic that goes into stores. And what they found out is, even though they have these pervasive high bandwidth capacity networks, you make this baseline assumption that users know how to get on a Wi-Fi network, which that's not exactly the case. Yeah. So one of the things we're partnering up right now is something that we've done for years in the stadium space, is really with the carriers and the auto authentication side of things. So you've been to a venue before where you come on and you're
connected.
You're connected. It happens seamlessly to you. And so retail is interested in that for two reasons. One, the seamless authentication. They don't necessarily care about monetizing that part of it, but they care about getting users on it. And then the other part of it is just making sure that once they're on the network, they have a good experience. So we're working right now to kind of build we've been doing that for years, but building that into kind of our solution through partners so that these users can get that seamless authentication, which allows them to get the apps and have the other part we find typically in these retail locations is we go on and people say, oh, we have a cell coverage issue.
Yeah.
As you know, the carriers aren't going to be investing in that technology in any other way. So
no, and the retailers don't want to invest in DAS infrastructure too because it's crazy expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the middle ground
Yes.
that says we're going to get users to authenticate to the Wi-Fi network seamlessly. They can do the coupon. They can use their app. It creates a better experience, and now the carriers are happy too because they're getting a better experience. So it really does. So we're really rounding out the solution side of it, but that's a good example that really started in the sports entertainment space now and then carried forward in retail.
Yeah. And for all you retailers out there, I do not understand why some have complicated guest Wi-Fi. It's guest Wi-Fi, right? Don't make it hard for people to hop on your network. You get the data. And
Exactly.
So, yeah. And
that's
so,
always been our,
yeah.
Our thought process too is get as many people on the Wi-Fi network
Sure.
safely, securely as you can, and then you're off and running from there.
I've heard the Kroger people talk about their stores of the future. It's pretty interesting what they're doing. In fact, NRF showed a lot of really interesting tech, electronic shelf labels. Right? You think about how archaic that is. That you got to go send people out to change shelf labels. I mean, that seems like something that'd be really easy to digitize. The coupons you mentioned, digital mirrors are coming, I think, with AI capabilities and things, and so more and more devices connected to that network, and really it's up to the IT department to make sure it works seamlessly.
Yeah, and I could tell you with partnerships we have, like with Kroger, they come to us, it seems like every 2 weeks with something new, right?
Yeah.
This week it's temperature sensors, it's ESL, which technology we're going to go from that. Everything they're foundationally do is going to have to be added to the network. And again, I go back to the same principles. That's great. We're going to have to be able to manage that in a really efficient way, be able to scale with limited amount of IT resources.
Yeah. All right, John. Well, thanks for discussion on retail. Anything else you want to add?
No, great to see you as always. Looking forward to the next conversation.
Yeah, no, it was a great NRF, and I think one of the things that pleased me was just, given the attention to that. I think there's always questions about what the spending climate's going to be, and I think we're going to see a pretty big refresh in tech because of AI, and that's frankly, I think that's good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So on behalf of John Brams from Extreme Networks, I'm C.S. Caravallo from ZK Research, and thanks for watching. Give us a like and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on the next episode of ZKast. Thanks, John.
Thank you.